Welcome to All Things in the Name of Love. If you like this show, please like, subscribe, and share. Thanks. Welcome to the first episode of 2025 for All Things in the Name of Love. For those of you who have been regular listeners, you know I've taken a bit of a hiatus, and Giovana Silvestre is gifted me with her presence to be the first guest of 2025. So thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm honored.
Thank you. And among the other things that she is, she's the founder of uh, Confused Girl, and she does crystal work activewear, and I love that. And you're the author of the forthcoming book, Confused Girl: Find Your Peace in the Chaos. And I love that you have a name for the spiritual journey, like the Confused Girl, because that's what it is.
Right? It's pretty authentic.
So I want to thank you very much for joining me. And I want to know, like, tell me about yourself and your spiritual journey and how you came into this
This confused girl
place.
world.
Yeah.
A confused girl spiritual world. Um, well, I was always spiritual. Like I was always sensitive, like as a child. Um, I remember even because my father was from Italy, and so we'd go to Italy a lot in the summertime. And I remember we were going through this one town, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this town is haunted!" Like I could feel it, and I'm like, "Something really bad happened here." And it was a beautiful coastal town, but I was like, "We got to get out of here tomorrow. We got to leave." And then there would be like certain places that were I felt very, very I didn't know the word peaceful when I was, when you're younger, but just you felt like serene, you felt really good, you felt very connected. And so I always have had that. And also I also was very creative too as a kid. I would write poetry, I would, design clothing, I would create little plays with my sister to put on like for my parents and sing and dance. And then somewhere along the lines during I would say it happened in high school. Which is, probably kind of normal because you're going through puberty and adolescence, but I just shut off the creativity and I was just filled with insecurity and self-doubt, which I didn't have before.
Mm-hmm.
And I shut off the creativity and also I didn't know what to do with the being so sensitive. So I think I really pushed it down and buried it. And
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't want to feel things. Because I'm like, it's just easier to just go through life and not feel all of this.
Yeah.
And so I kind of was almost like a volcano about to erupt. And so, I mean, but that worked for me. I would say, I went to a really good university. I went to, University of Southern California, graduated from there. Then I got some really amazing jobs working in the film and TV industry, and I was moving up the ladder really quickly. And I was really good at dealing with narcissistic personalities, and I was a good people pleaser, and I knew how to do that. That's very intuitive actually.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the pushing down of emotions, the pushing down of myself, not engaging in my creativity, because a lot of the stuff I did in the entertainment industry, I loved being around the creativity, and I got to read scripts and that kind of thing. But a lot of the stuff I did was administration stuff,
Mm.
as assistant stuff, and
Yeah.
even like producing stuff. And it wasn't, the crux of the creative.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't consider myself a creative person at all. And I didn't consider myself an intuitive person either. I considered myself a bulldozer, a go-getter. I can have thick skin. I can push through this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I hit this point in my late 20s, which it's interesting it happens in the late 20s because that's when Saturn returns. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know about Saturn returns until after I got out of Saturn returns.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, that's what that was.
Yeah.
And so it hit me, and it was just kind of like I went into this deep, dark depression.
Mm.
And it was like I realized that I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted to do here on earth. I had been ignoring myself. I had been doing things in an attempt to be acceptable in society, to look good in society. You know, what would make my
Yeah.
family happy? What would look cool to my peers? And so everything was so about what other people would think about me. And
Mhm.
I didn't think much of me.
Mhm.
And I wasn't happy in my life at all.
Okay.
And then I felt a lot of shame because I'm like, oh, I wait, you know, because when you're in your 20s, you don't really realize that you have all this time. And especially now it's so cool. You have women doing cool things in their 30s and their 40s and their 50s and their 60s and their 70s and their 80s. You actually like now we're talking about this, but kind of before it was like, oh, your women are useless after 35, you know?
Right.
You should have had your kids and then you just kind of take care of your kids and be quiet
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. And now that's all changed, which is so exciting. I love it. And so yeah, for me, I realized this. And my main intention was I want to feel good just because I exist. I want to feel good in my skin. I want to feel good just because I exist here on earth. I don't want my contentment and my self-worth attached to a new man, more money, a new car, a new career move, some kind of accolade. And that's what it was attached to before.
Okay.
The school I went to, family I come from,
Yeah.
I have, the car I drive, the purse I have, the new outfit, the new guy, the promotion, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, okay, well, you know, I've had all those things and I still felt worthless and unhappy. So
Mm-hmm.
how do I get happy? And how do I get like, how do I feel better? And also at that time, it was like my mind was on a loop of negative thoughts and
Mm.
you know, like a loop of how I wasn't good enough, my shortcomings, my perceived failures, blah, blah, blah. And it was just self torture and I couldn't turn it off. It had gotten so
Yeah.
bad to where I couldn't change the record.
Mm.
And so actually what happened was kind of beautiful because it's like I felt so bad that it kind of cracked and I was not wanting to if I was like if I am going to live in these emotions I don't want to live anymore
Mm.
and there was like a cracking open and it's like something cracked open in me and I think it was just getting to this point of feeling so low inside of myself. I'm like I don't care what anybody thinks anymore. I don't care about any accolades or anything. I just want to feel good, you know?
Yeah.
And that's such a powerful intention, just
Yeah.
wanting to feel good. It-
Mm-hmm.
And so everything I did from there was my goal of I just want to feel good in my skin.
You know, that's such a beautiful thing because I'm just going to pause there.
Yeah.
Having that awareness, it's such seemingly simple, but such a profound shift. And like I celebrated a solar return yesterday, and the gift I gave to myself was I got to spend time with a dear friend and I got hugs. That was my present to myself.
I love that.
And it's like no physical thing, like I can't buy myself anything that would be as meaningful to me as having a beautiful conversation, set of conversations with somebody I love dearly.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
100% get that. And, you know, now, you know, because I have gone on this spiritual journey and I did have a spiritual awakening it's like I really do appreciate the little things. Like it's not just saying it. When I go out into the world and I'll like see a beautiful flower and I'm like, that's beautiful. You know, I really like it
Yeah.
really it'll really take me in
Mm-hmm.
and versus and it, you know, it's not every single day is like that,
Right.
but more than not, I'll see something in my day, I'll appreciate, and it's just so nice to go around and most of the time be joyful and bring that joy to other people, versus
Mhm.
being a big grump and bitter and resentful and angry and high anxiety. It's, so much nicer to just be like, oh, hi, how are you? Like just feeling
Yeah.
pleasant.
Yeah, I totally get that. Like so about a year and a half ago, I was up on Orcas Island in Washington, and the flowers, I mean, it was the summer solstice time. So, I mean, the peonies, the lilacs, the everything were out. And on East Sound, which is the town in Orcas, there's flowers all over the place. And I would literally stop and smell them. And
Yeah.
the kids were like, "Mommy, look, look." And the adults were like, "What is she doing?" And I'm appreciating these amazing flowers that have these amazing scents. But it was like almost cognitive dissonance to like slow down. Not for me, because I was like, "Oh, these flowers are amazing and I want to appreciate them." But for the other ones that were watching me, it was like, wait, she's giving herself permission to sniff flowers and talk to them and thank them for their gifts in the world. It was like, I mean, it was really fascinating to watch because I talk to trees all the time. I talk to boulders, and they're my friends because I don't see separation. So it's like, that freaks some people out, and I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. Oh, I love that. And you know what I've really noticed is like during like right before Christmas, life just really slowed down for me. Like before
Mhm.
that, I was being a lot more social. There was a lot more going on. And you're just busy when you're busy. But
Mhm.
when things slowed down right before the holidays, and I had a lot of alone time, almost to the point where I'm like, is this healthy? And then I'm like, you know what though? I'm cool with it. Let's just go with it. Because I think there are seasons for being really active and social. And then there are seasons to slow down and be with yourself. And I think if you flow with those seasons, things are gonna be easier for you. Like life's gonna feel more flowy. And if you're trying to do things when you're not supposed to be doing them, it's gonna backfire in your face.
Mhm.
So because I've spent so much time alone, when I go on walks, I'm like you. I'm like, oh my God, this flower, this, and I'm just so joyful because I think because of that alone time. Because I'm
Mhm.
connecting with myself, so I'm like really able to see things versus just being distracted and taking things for granted.
I totally hear that. One of the things that the word that came through me for my theme for 2025 is nurturing.
Mm.
And two of my guys are Mary Magdalene and Kuan Yin.
Oh, wow.
And so like I'm from Connecticut, so like I have that tendency to go fast,
Yes,
right?
very
Even
East
though
Coast vibes. Yeah.
total East Coast vibe, but like fortunately I've been on the West Coast since 2007, so I'm like mostly out of it. Um, but what's interesting though is like I'll slow down and then I hear slower. I'm like, slower? What
You're like,
slower?
no, I can't go slower than this. I know.
But I can, and
Yeah.
it's like it's an invitation. So this morning I did this crazy, I got whipping cream from the farmer's market on Saturday, and I decided to make butter. So yesterday I made sourdough, and then I had the butter I made for myself on the sourdough. And I was like, that is the best present ever, because I was slow enough to like appreciate it. And like, neither of those things is a quick process. So the fact that I took the time to do it and then I gifted myself that combination as like, oh, this is what feels good.
Yeah.
And it's really an invitation. It's like this divine feminine energy that's coming in through us, because this is also what I'm feeling is a year of the divine feminine, not like pushing away the masculine, but just like allowing our true essence to come through.
Yes. Yes.
That, really intentionally like gifting ourselves that slowing down, even though it's like against all of our programming.
All of the programming. And it used to feel for me like a real internal battle.
Hmm.
Like for me, it was like a war with inside myself where I was like, slow down. It's like, no, you gotta go faster, and it was
Yeah.
this crazy, and you're like having to fight your yourself. It's
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
hard.
no, I get it. I've had that so many times.
And well, yeah, and being from the East Coast, and like even though I grew up on the West Coast, my father was from Italy, and my parents had a restaurant, and so it was always go, 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 go,
Yeah.
go. And there was not enough time to like think or slow down or have a moment.
Mhm.
And so, growing up like that, you kind of then start to associate doing a lot with being successful
Right.
and getting things done and doing things like you associate that with what you should be doing, the right way to do things good. And then if you associate slowing down with, oh, laziness.
Mhm.
And actually it's not lazy at all because it's actually really hard to fight off the go, go, go. So there's
Yeah.
actually nothing lazy about it. But now I'm at a point where it's not a fight anymore. And it's so cool because I'm really all about less is more now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I just want to do this one thing really well.
Mhm.
And then I'll move on to this other thing. And another thing, I don't pile my day with a bunch of stuff.
Mhm.
Even with these podcast interviews, one week I did have a week where I had like two, and I was like, that's too much because I give a lot of myself when I talk to people. And like,
Mhm.
that's exhausting for me. And it's just, and not going to do it very well if I'm doing two a day. So I was like, I'm going to do one a day.
Beautiful.
And so, yeah, and that was like, okay, that works better. And I feel good about that. And so, this more is more is no, it's
Right.
less is more.
No, I completely get that. I have a question. I have two questions I give to myself every morning, and the first one is, what will create a fantastic day? The fantastic day is like meditate, do breathing exercises, chant, um,
Good.
play, listen to music, create. There's no to-do list. And then
Yeah.
the second is I ask my soul what it wants to tell me. And then I just stream, I'm in the stream of consciousness. And so I hear what my soul wants to tell me. And it's never about a to-do list. Like my to-do list today was I baked a pumpkin, I made granola, and I made butter.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic.
And
And
I
that's
have a
a lot.
podcast.
And that's actually a lot.
Yeah. But it
You
was
know,
fun because I
but
was
you enjoyed it.
creating.
Yeah, it wasn't like, okay, make the butter, make granola, podcast. Then, it's like,
Yeah. I mean, if I write anything down, it's more to remind myself that I have it.
yeah,
You know what I mean? But like, it's like create. What do I want to create today? And it's, sometimes it's sessions with my clients, and sometimes it's going out on a hike. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's very non 9 to 5-ish.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And that's very disorienting for many in the world, because I don't follow a paradigm of valuing myself. Like I value my time more than a paycheck.
yeah, me too. Which sometimes I'm like, but you need money.
Oh yeah, no, I 100% on that. It's not that, because I get that balance too, and
Yeah.
we're hopefully shifting into a new paradigm soon where that's not the way it was economically.
Wait,
Um,
okay, wait, hold on.
oh,
Can
okay,
okay, because I actually think this too.
okay,
Do you think we're gonna shift? Do you think this has to do with AI? We're gonna shift into like a universal income kind of thing? Like
yes,
I'm so happy
but
because that's what I was hoping too.
it's a whole thing. I'm gonna tune in to see if I could talk about this. Oh, I got a yes. All right. So it's the National Economic Recovery Act. It's called NACERA. Um, it's in the process of getting unfolded. We're going back to gold-backed income. Most people don't know that our fiat is not based on, and our current currency has no
Uh-huh.
backing.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
That
Yeah. Yeah.
has no value except our belief system, which is that's a whole thing.
Yes.
I've gone down many, many rabbit holes. We can have offline discussions about that.
Oh my
But
God.
one of the things that Clinton signed into office is the National Economic Recovery Act, and it's been trying to get in to reality since since the Titanic. So yeah, yeah, it's a long process. It's a long process, but because we're bringing more light into the world, and I know you can feel that because you're aware of like,
Oh, I'm totally, it's like darkness is being exposed left and right, and people are
mhm,
waking up,
yeah,
and it's like, and I think it's, it's such an interesting time because
mhm,
I feel like elated at one minute, then I feel angry that because when things are hidden, you don't know they're happening. But then when things are exposed, you're like, how could this happen? How could
right,
they do this? How could they, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
how could there be so much darkness and it makes you angry, you know?
It's been
And
thousands of years in the making,
yeah,
thousands of years. And
um,
and the perk for me is I've been doing this research for like 8 years.
yeah.
And I would be considered a conspiracy theorist, but I have a PhD in history. So like like
It's only a conspiracy until it's proven true. And
right. And
it's not a
conspiracy is not
conspiracy anymore.
mainstream.
Yeah.
So like for me, it's like I'll get the intuitive guidance to follow a path, and then I'll go down the rabbit hole and find the things that resonate with me. So I'm not like just going off on some crazy ass quest. And then when I feel it in my heart, like, oh, I did not need to know that.
I know. I
But that's
know.
what I do. And like it's ultimately good because we're in a time of consciousness where that has to come out.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and I've already gone through the trauma, so I can hold space for others who are going through it now.
Yeah, and it is traumatic. It is definitely traumatic. Like I see, like for me, I can be really I can accept it and I can like kind of I get this like warrior feeling,
Mm,
like I want a warrior up,
hmm.
But I think people like my mom, it scares her, and it really
Right.
like upsetting on a different where they
Oh
then it's
yeah.
like, oh, just put that away, put it back in the closet. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to hear it. I don't where I'm like, bring it on, I'll fight them.
Well, and both are valid because like right now, like we're so unused to feeling our feelings. Like I repressed mine for most of my life. And so like I do a lot of somatic work intentionally because I want to feel my body. And
Yeah.
if I have a trigger of anger, well, that anger is justified. But how do I feel within myself where the anger is? Like, is it in my liver? Because that's the seat of anger. It's also the seat of the soul. And
Mhm.
so how am I feeling that? Am I feeling fear? Is that in my adrenals? Is it in my kidneys? What does that feel like? And just being present with that and finding like, what can I do like energetically, supplements, like what does my body need for me to be able to process this feeling, feel safe enough to process this feeling? So what I'm feeling with her mom is she hasn't felt safe to feel.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
a lot of people in, I'll say Gen X, because I'm a Gen Xer. I like most of the people in my generation are like, what do you, why? No, we'll just push it aside. And it's like, no, if you feel it, like I felt last week the most profound sadness I've ever felt,
Oh,
ever.
wow.
And I was so grateful because I'm safe enough to feel it.
Absolutely. I totally get that. I totally
Yeah.
get that because it's if you let yourself feel it,
Mhm.
and you can even let it just like kind of take you over and you allow it, and then it'll just pass through you and move on, right? But if
Mhm.
you are like reject it, then you're kind of living in this fear of it and it'll follow
Yeah.
you.
Hmm.
So we
And
have
it's going to keep showing up in your life.
Yeah, so we have to feel it. We have
Hmm.
to just sit in it. And I think it's really great, to go when sometimes when I'm feeling like that, I'll just go to yoga because yoga just like lets me move it and it allows it to
Mm.
be there. And so yoga is really helpful. I think having a practice
Yeah.
really helpful. Even taking a bath, just like sitting in the bath and just sitting in it, like in the water, and I'm just like, okay, this is how I feel.
And that's beautiful. Like anything to give yourself attention.
Yeah.
There's this paradigm in the world that says, self-care is selfish.
No, it's like
And if
it's like
I'm feeling shitty, I can't take care of anyone else.
exactly. And even or if you try to, you're not doing it in your with your being in the present moment and with your joy and with your heart, you're doing it like half-assed, and then other people feel that. And so
Hmm.
your presence to them doesn't feel good.
Right. And people pleasing, that's, I gotta say, that's got to be one of the most um, challenging navigations because, like, innately, if you're compassionate, you want to help others.
Yes.
And it's distorted to, I'm going to neglect myself to make others feel comfortable around me.
Yep. It's like a self-betrayal.
Yeah.
Like I
You don't,
will.
you don't see it until you see it, and then it's like, oh,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think that's definitely like really prevalent in women
yeah.
because we have that nurturing aspect. You know, when I really understood this, it was in business. When I
Okay.
saw the way men do like business deals, like I was in this one big business deal that I actually put together. It was for a film project back in the day. And so I go in there with the director and the producer, and they were going to see if they, and I brought them together, and they were going to see if they wanted to work together. But this was going to be like a pretty big, good deal if this all happened. And they were literally sitting there in silence, kind of sizing each other up, like who's going to talk first, who's going to. And I wanted to die. I was like, I want to burst out of my body right now. I want to be like, oh, he's from blah 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 blah, and I wanted to make it all nice. I want to make like we can all talk and have a nice little and it's just, and I had to just go against all of my instincts, like my female wanting to make things comfortable and nice and make everybody feel good. Oh my
Mhm.
gosh, it went against all my instincts. And I'm like, this is so interesting. Men are not like this with each other. They're
No.
not trying to make each other feel good. Like women were always trying to make each other like feel good and feel comfortable. And
Biggie, by the way.
oh hi.
It's like
And
you've ignored me.
it was just very interesting to see.
Hmm.
And then
Yeah.
and then realize, you know what? I don't have to do that. I don't have to be the entertainer. I don't have to make everybody feel comfortable and good all the time. I could just be me and that's enough.
Mhm. But to like have that awareness, it's so, so good.
So good. It's key. That's the first step.
Yeah, and then choosing yourself,
Yes.
man, that can be a massive trigger for others.
Oh yeah. Especially if they know you when you didn't choose yourself.
Right. Right. I had an instance where I was living in California a couple years ago, and I had a great teacher, I would call him, and we had a situation where he had a friend over, and he and the friend were talking, and it was clear that I was not part of the conversation. So I said, "It's very clear to me that you two are having a great conversation. I'm not part of it, so I'm going to go home and do like me."
Hmm.
And the next day, he was like, because we lived on the same property, he was like, "What was that about?" But nothing. Like, you guys were having a great time and I wasn't part of it. So I just decided to take care of myself at home. He's like, "That was rude." I'm like, "No, I told you." Like, nothing about that was rude. I was like literally like noticing the lack of bringing me into the conversation. And I'm not going to hold space for that because why?
Yeah. No, oh, I'm so proud of you. Bravo.
You,
That's a good one.
yeah, because he was like, he was just so like, didn't know what to do with me. And I'm like, you were ignoring me.
Well, I think that's also interesting because that's happened to me with men as well. And I think uh I think women in the past were just, stay over there, be pretty, just sit there and be
Yeah.
pretty. And I've definitely,
I've done that. I've done.
yeah. And I've definitely had like men that are like, okay, we just want you to sit there and be pretty. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have way too much of a big loud mouth to just sit here and be pretty. Like I can't, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Like I can sit here and be pretty and talk, but I can't.
Right. Yeah, no, I know. It's like I can, I'll hold space, but like if you don't watch it and I feel the, if I feel the masks, if I
Yeah.
feel the inauthenticity, I'm going to call it out. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, me too.
the past 5 months of my life, I've pretty much lived alone with crazy experience of house sitting around Oregon. It's been
Amazing.
fascinating. And so I'm pretty much me with animals. And so I don't have filters anymore. And it's fascinating to see how people respond. When they ask me a question, I'm going to be authentic. I met somebody last week and he's like, well, we were talking about the vaxes. And I said, well, I didn't. My soul told me not to.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about dating is I've been celibate for 5 years. And
Yeah,
he's
you're
like, I've never heard anyone talk like this. I'm like, yeah, like this is me and my friends. We all talk like this. He's like, I don't know what to do with this, but it's so refreshing. Like, I mean, because like it's just where I'm at, and like and like the whole dating thing. Oh my God, that's like a whole thing.
it's a whole thing. It's
Yeah.
such a and I'm so honest too. And I think it does throw people off sometimes and they're like, "Whoa, like she's just gets straight to the point." You know, like I told this one guy I recently went on a date with. I could tell I was like, either he's high, he's on a drug, or he has like really bad ADD. So I just asked him, I was like, "Are you high? Like, are you?" I mean, if you took some weed, I don't care. Like, just tell, just be honest. He's like, "No, no, I." And I said, "Well, do you have ADD?" And he's like, "Yes, I have really bad ADD." And I said, "Okay," because I said I felt like on our date that you weren't like present with me and you were kind of like looking everywhere and it like and I just straight up told him and I said because he wanted to go out with me again and I said no. I said, I myself struggle with anxiety and I need a man that I date to be really calm and present with me.
Yeah.
And he really respected it. He's like, honestly, you're completely right about me. And I'm sorry I wasn't present with you.
That's
And
so awesome.
no, it was so awesome. It was so because it's like I've reached this point too where I've been on thousands of dates and I'm not and right now I'm not trying to catch a husband. I'm not trying to have kids. I don't have these ulterior motives. Like I don't have these boxes I'm trying to check off of my checklist.
Mhm.
I actually would love to meet somebody I connected with and could enjoy my time with and then see what happens with that. But if
Mhm.
it's not a right match and also if I can offer something real and authentic, then why not? Maybe that's why God put me with that person, is because they
Mhm.
wanted me to, because God knows I have the balls to say something. So
I get it's so fascinating because like it's the whole thing about authenticity. Well, authenticity, it's like you have to be honest with yourself.
yes.
And the more and more you dive within yourself and you're like, oh shit, I was lying to myself about this thing. I hold myself accountable. Like I saw my ex-partner after 4 years of not seeing him, and I didn't want to see him. And so I made up this excuse and he called me out on it. And I said, you know what? You're right. I saw this thing. This is a pattern I've had with you. And I didn't see it until today. And so I was present with myself. I cried it out. I was like, oh, this is part of me that just didn't know how to speak truth to this person that I was with 16 years. And I'm going to call myself out on it. He had no idea what I was talking about.
You know what though? I love that because you're like you're intuitive, you self-reflect, right?
Mhm.
And like you're not just beginning this journey, like you've been
Right.
on this journey for a
Oh,
long.
yeah.
And so, but you're still like you still realize you're not saying I'm perfect. You're saying, oh yeah, this I didn't even realize that I was doing it and being inauthentic. But then
Yeah.
once it was brought to my attention, I self-corrected. And I think, you know, and I'm like that too. I'm like, you can tell me something and I mean, if it's real, if,
Mhm.
if it's a real thing, and I will self-reflect on it and I will course correct because I
Mhm.
do want to be truthful and I do want to be a better person. I don't take it like you're saying something's wrong with me.
Right.
I don't get defensive. I don't take it as I don't like I don't take it as, oh, I'm a horrible person. I feel bad about myself.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we're all human
Mhm.
and that's the kind of the premise of why I started the brand Confused Girl and because in
Mhm.
that moment you were a confused girl
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
then you course corrected. And so I'm all about, use confusion as your fuel for your self-discovery journey. Because when
Mhm.
there's something you're confused about, that means that you have something over here to discover.
Mhm.
So actually, confusion is your virtue. And
Mhm.
you're always going to find confusing moments, situations, and things in life. It's just
Mhm.
the way that the whole system's built.
Right. Right. And the confusion is like just this gift, when we learn how to be present with ourselves, which
Yeah.
is a process. It's not like like one day I'm like, hey, I think I'm gonna be present today. That would be so amazing. But
Yeah.
today I've decided I'm going to just pay attention to all of my feelings. Like no, that was a long process.
Yeah.
But the fact, like, if I had that night that I felt that sorrow,
Yeah.
I just full on somatic presence with myself. And for like 3 hours, I was just like middle of the night and I'm just feeling it and not trying to think. I'm just holding space for me and loving this aspect that's never been able to express itself before. And
Yeah.
that gift of that level of self-love, I want everyone to feel that.
Yeah. No, I know. And for me, it's so sad and like and makes me it really hurts when I see somebody like really struggling and
Mhm,
because I know what that's like. And
mhm.
and it's like they can't seem to get out of it. Like it's lasting
Yeah.
years and years and years. And it makes me so sad because it's it's so crazy. It's so simple, but also difficult to get out of that. But then
Mhm,
once you shift the perspective, kind of reprogram things, and you start to see things in a different way, and you can
mhm.
really start to play with being here on earth and really enjoy it. And just
Yeah.
like now I don't know, like I'll just look at somebody and kind of be like, oh, we're gonna talk. Like I know I'm gonna talk to that person. Like something's gonna happen with that person. Like I
Yeah.
do these little energetic pulls now.
Uh-huh. I totally get that.
Yeah, right?
Totally get that. It's like so fascinating. It's like I met somebody on Saturday and I just felt that we were gonna have like we ended up talking for like 40 minutes because like I felt the resonance to have a conversation and he was open to it. And it was like this beautiful, like he's like, could I still talk to you? I'm like, of course you can. Please do. Because like I felt the resonance.
You felt the resonance. Yeah, and it doesn't mean like, oh, you gotta go into business together or you're gonna become lovers or you're gonna become no, it's just
Oh,
that in that moment that was supposed to happen.
right.
And I can't tell you throughout my travels, because I'm like a solo traveler and I wrote my book while I was living in Bali. And I can't tell you how many times God sent me somebody that gave me a message that I needed to hear or needed a reminder that I was on the right path.
Yeah.
Or I was the angel in somebody else's life. Like I said something to them that resonated. I said something that
Mm,
shifted their course. And
yeah.
I I think that that's once you start to see the magic in the world, you can't unsee it. You won't go back to this mundane way of living because you're just like, there's magic and it's happening all the time, all around us.
Mhm. We just have to slow down
Yeah.
and see it. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's such a gift. Like I'm looking outside right now and to the north, there's mountains. To the west, there's a Cascade Mountain. So I'm surrounded by mountains and there's a little bit of snow and like I can feel the frequency of the magic of the land that's surrounding me. It's palpable and I'm inside and it's like I can feel it.
Oh, I love that.
And every time I've come to Bend this fall, I've not every time, but almost every time I've had a Kundalini awakening. As I'm driving on the road, I'm like, okay, I'm supposed to be here.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
See,
powerful.
yeah, I've had that. Oh my gosh, I've had that in certain parts of the world as well. Like for me, this is really interesting. So people could say, okay, what are your favorite places? And I'm like, okay, that's hard because every place has something great
Right.
love and that you don't like so much. But
Mhm.
okay, I would say my three top ones though, where I had that feeling of I am in some magic right now, what is Italy, Indonesia, and Iceland.
I love
And
the eyes.
I know, right? So I was thinking about that and I wasn't trying to be cute by choosing all eyes. I
Right.
chose those and then I was like, wait, they all start with an I
Yeah.
and they all have active volcanoes.
Ooh.
So I think that
Ooh.
is something about places that have active volcanoes.
Mm.
There is some kind of magic in the air. It's like I'll think about something and then it'll just happen. It'll just like appear. And it's a lot more, there's a lot more synchronicities. There's a lot more
Mhm.
passion. There's a lot more going on.
Yeah, I've had mine are here.
Uh-huh.
Um a specific park on the Oregon coast called Oswald West State Park. And Oswald West was a governor who like set aside the Oregon coast for the people of Oregon.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it's a very underdeveloped coast, which is amazing with a
Oh,
lot of state parks. I love Oswald West. He's amazing. There are ferries in that park.
oh,
You
wow.
can feel the ferries.
Oh my gosh.
It's
I
amazing.
go now.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And I did one walk and I actually felt I saw it. And the fact that I saw it twice, I was like, that was a fairy. The frequency, the veil shifted. I felt the veil shift and I'm like, I'm sober. Um, and it doesn't matter because like I'm aware of quantum physics, I'm aware of consciousness, I'm aware of frequencies. And so like the fact that I actually saw the actual
The
air like
actual,
this.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And so that's a magic place. And Orcas Island, the trees have conversations with me. It's not just me saying hi to a tree and hugging it. It's like they have conversations with me.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
So
That is incredible. Okay, I'm booking a ticket. I'm booking a
because like and it's just like these lands, I think actually all lands are waiting for us to
to wake
listen.
up.
To listen. I mean, the animals are definitely like, we are so done with codependency. Sorry, we're just done with that program. We're not taking on your emotional crap anymore. We're just
Yeah.
so that's a whole thing. That's a whole other discussion. But like, all of life, because we're shifting our consciousness, and Mama Gaia is already in the fifth dimension. Um, all of the plants, all of the innocent ones, the feathered, winged, and four-leggeds, and the
Yeah.
plants, the trees, the earth herself, um, are beckoning us to remember.
Mm.
And it's the remembrance of like how we used to be. And I'll just pull upon the Aboriginals and the Native Americans who never lost that connection.
Yeah.
The presence, I was singing to their orcas in normal language. I call them the Quelimeshin, which is their native term. It means people of the sea. I was singing to them. I felt them in my heart because they knew I was trying to connect with them. And if I actually saw a Quelimeshin in person, that I'd probably go into a different like realm because they're just magical to me. Like,
Wow.
so, but they're in everything in life is like, come on, remember, you're connected. There's no separation. It's an illusion.
You
Come on, wake
know,
up, wake up.
and I feel that too, not in the way you do, but like for me, I would say one of my main messages is go inside yourself. Stop
Mhm.
looking at external things to fill you up. That's like
Mhm.
it's like so painful and it's
Yeah.
become almost too painful. It's like now we all have to go inside. We got to do the internal work because the
Mhm.
internal work, which is the slowing down, is the, getting in touch with yourself, that opens your eyes to the what everything you're talking about, like
Yeah.
the connections.
Yeah.
And it's like, what are we here for? I mean, to stress ourselves into our graves. I mean, I mean, that's
No, it's like,
fun.
my understanding is that I'm here to use all my gifts.
Yeah,
I have a lot of gifts. So I'd like to use them all before I transition.
yeah,
That would be awesome because I have a lot of gifts. So I either have to live a long time or or maybe I will. Um, or just like express them however they want to be expressed. And it doesn't fit a paradigm. I can't fit into I've tried academics, I've tried corporate world, I've tried all these things. I don't fit.
yeah, same. Same.
And it's because I'm here to carve out something, well, carve out many new things. And it's really the beingness. So to like put a label on me,
It doesn't
it's
work.
yeah, it doesn't work because
You
like,
have a label on being, like a being,
right.
essence of a being. You can't put a label on that.
Mhm.
I know, and I know, and I'm the same way too. I think that's a very old soul thing because like you've been here so many times, and
Mhm.
so then when you try to, because we want to be accepted, we want to feel a part of something, we want
Right.
unity, we want that right belonging, we want that safety, and then
Mhm.
when you try to go for it, you're like, I actually can't do this. Like I can't even get myself out of bed to do this. It's like I got to figure out something else because this isn't working. Because I
Yeah.
think that the soul knows, oh no, we've done that. We're past this now. We're moving on. We need to do something else.
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah. Well, I'm Aquarian and I'm Palladian.
okay,
So like none of this works for me. I'm
yeah,
humanitarian. Like, how do we collaborate? Collaborate's my favorite way of being. I love collaboration because I don't have to be responsible for everything. I can co-create with everyone else. How
yeah,
magical is that?
yeah. Well, and I think the whole goal to all of this is to find like to connect with yourself, slow down,
Mhm.
connect with yourself, and then go after what feels good for you and in alignment with your being. And what happens though is people look at, okay, I should do this based upon my family or society or what my
Mhm.
friend did, and then they get into a situation where they're like, oh my God, what have I done? Now I'm stuck and I'm so unhappy.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh no, 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 no. Let me help you use your confusion and let me, help you connect with yourself so then you
Yeah.
can go off and do what you're really supposed to do here on earth and not find yourself in a position where you're like, oh my gosh, I am so lost and so
Right. And it changes over time. I mean, there's some things that I've been doing since I was 4. One of is baking. And that just brings me joy because it's like clearly I've been a baker in many lifetimes and it's just something that's innate.
yeah.
So like that is beautiful. But like 4 years ago, I went from being 5 years ago, I guess, I went from being an historian to doing energy work.
Wow.
That's my passion. Was like
Yeah.
that. Oh yeah, let's do that. Let's go into the quantum field. I didn't know the quantum field existed when I was getting my PhD. I mean, it did, but I was living in Connecticut, or in Maine. So like that wasn't
A
I
thing.
I don't get physics. I get it because it's consciousness,
Yeah.
but I don't do the math for it.
Yeah. No, I mean, for me, I never thought, oh, I'm going to write a book one day.
Right.
But when I was younger, I wrote poetry and I would win poetry contests and now writing, I figured out that writing is actually one of my most favorite things to do. Like when I'm in the zone and in the
That's
flow,
awesome.
it's like the best feeling I've ever had in my life.
I love that.
It's magic, you know.
Yeah.
I just so it's that's part of the beauty of the discovery
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
discovering ourselves and what lights us up and
And it
discovering
changes.
yeah, and it changes and it shifts. Like I thought at one point I wanted a big office with a bunch of employees for my activewear line. And then, that wasn't happening. But instead of being sad about it, I was actually kind of grateful because I'm like, you know what? I love to travel and I don't
Mhm.
want to be in an office. That actually
Yeah,
make me miserable and feel stressed.
that's
And
beautiful.
so I became a big traveler.
I love that. I love that because like you're feeling what your soul wants as opposed to what society's telling, and that's just such a beautiful gift.
Yeah, yeah. And one that's attainable for everyone, not just
Mhm.
for certain people, not just for people that are, more sensitive. Like that is an attainable thing for everyone.
Mhm.
I think it should be the goal.
I agree. I agree. Because we all have the gifts, like we all come in with gifts.
Yes.
And to not use them is a disservice to the soul.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. And
Yeah.
you feel it too. It's kind of that quote about, living in quiet desperation. I think the desperation is not doing what your soul came here to do. And you have now um kind of accepted that, like you're not gonna do it. And then then that there comes the dying and the desperation, like that
Mhm.
quiet desperation,
Yeah.
which you don't have to do.
No, you don't. It's all, but we live on a planet of free will choice, so that's.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So what will you do with it?
Mhm.
But oh, Sophia, I have so enjoyed this conversation, but I do have to go in a minute.
Okay.
Is I'm at my mom's, I told you, and she has guys here like putting in a new heater. And
Perfect. So I'm going to ask the last question. How do people find you?
okay, so you can go to my website, confusedgirlinthecity.com, and you can see my crystal inspired activewear, and you can pre-order my book. And get me on Instagram at Confused Girl LA. And also my book, you can find it on Amazon as well. Confused Girl, Find Your Peace in the Chaos.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your beingness, your time, and for being on the planet with me at this time in consciousness, my dear.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
This was such a good way to have like your midday break, this conversation with you. Like, I love it.
Thank you.